So I just wanted to show you, I got everything pretty much set up the way I want to. Of course, over time, when I get used to Windows 10 a little bit more, I will customize it a little bit more. But this is the lock screen. If you know anything about Windows 8 or 8.1, you know what this is all about. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the Enter key on the keyboard, and you'll notice the sign-in screen. I have two accounts on this computer. I have my day job, it's actually named Day Job, and I have a picture of my two little cats there, and then I have my TechHarvest account. So it's basically the two things that I do with this computer. When I do work for my day job, I just sign into that, and then of course TechHarvest, when I do video editing, I sign into that. So the first thing I like about Windows 10 is the sign-in screen. It's very cool. Now I don't know why it did that, why it went back to the lock screen there. I'm not a huge fan of the lock screen. I think it's something that is good for tablets. I've never really had a Windows phone, but I assume it's used over there, so it's, you know, something you want on a phone and a tablet, but not on a desktop. So I have to do some searching around and see if I can actually get rid of that lock screen, because it's really unnecessary. It's very unnecessary. I wish it would just boot straight into this, have some information here, you know, the same information, the time and date, and I guess it times out. If you don't sign in, then we go back to the lock screen here. But again, like I said, lock screen, pretty much useless. So in the lower right-hand corner down here, you have your Wi-Fi information, you have your accessibility, which is if you have if you're hearing impaired or visually impaired, you can put some settings on there for that. And then you have your shutdown sequence over here. And of course you can toggle between the two or however many users you have on your computer. I really like the way this looks. I like the Windows logo over here. It's not the flat kind of Metro, even though they don't call it Metro anymore, but the modern UI. The modern UI is basically flat, like, you know, iOS and Android and whatnot. I kind of like the textured look of the window over here, so that's sort of a throwback to Windows 7. I like that. But I do like the large, you know, sign-ins here. So I'm going to sign into TechHarvest, and I'll join you on the other side of that. So you'll notice I did some customizations here, and I actually had a couple of Transformers pictures, a desktop wallpaper, that I thought I'd try out in this situation here, and I'll show you in a second why. Maybe you can see a little bit over onto the right-hand side. The screen is on over there. But I have all of the desktop shortcuts set up the way I like them, and they're just really organized in not a normal fashion. Normally it's up and down, but I kind of just put them horizontally, left to right. And, you know, I got the resolution squared away, so I'm happy with that. So far, my impressions are it's very similar to Windows 7 in operation, so that's a good thing. There are some differences that I'll have to get used to. You know, doing an upgrade, it gave me a Windows old file. So, for example, I had some pictures on this account, and these were included. That's why I actually ended up using them as desktop wallpapers. These pictures, I kind of had to dig for them because they weren't surfaced in the accounts that they were in originally with Windows 7. So in Windows 7, I had the two user accounts, just like I have here right now, and I had a pictures folder, and once I upgraded to Windows 10, that same picture folder didn't have these pictures in them, so I had to kind of dig for them to find them. So other than that, really, you know, the upgrade went well. I don't notice many, if any, programs that don't work from Windows 7 to Windows 10 here. So far so good. But again, it's early days. I just, you know, spent a couple of hours on it yesterday, then I had to lock up, and today is the only time right now, when I'm starting to film right now, to actually fire this thing up again. So I didn't spend a whole lot of time with it, but I did spend at least, you know, a couple of hours messing around with it. I do like the fact, you know, I do like the upgrades. I do like the Edge browser here. Seems pretty nice, although I am a Chrome user, and this computer is very powerful, so, you know, a browser is not going to bog this system down at all. So I just basically stick with my my Chrome browser, but I'm willing to try this out. In fact, it is my default browser on this machine, so I don't have any issue with that. We'll see over time how my thoughts on the Edge browser, which by the way is very similar. Let me show you. Let me throw let's see. I don't know how I can make a desktop shortcut for this, but the icon, I'll show you in a second. The icon for the Edge browser is very similar to the Internet Explorer icon. I think it probably would have been better if they separated them, unless they want you to think of the E as going to the Internet, because the Internet Explorer icon is very similar to that Edge icon. So I don't know. I don't know what their thinking was behind that, but they should have probably changed the icon for that, I think. Would have been a good idea. I mean, it is different, but it is so similar to Internet Explorer. But anyway, there's another thing about icons I do want to cover in a bit. But the next thing I wanted to talk about is the desktops, or the two different screens here. Now, the one thing that you could do in Windows 8 that you couldn't do in previous versions of Windows, if you had separate screens, you could actually do separate desktop backgrounds. So let me bring this back so you can see what I'm talking about. So there you go. You see my main desktop is the Transformer Autobot logo, and on the right screen, the one that's vertically oriented, I've got a picture of the original Megatron, the Generation 1 Megatron, when I actually used to watch Transformers back in the day. I like to try out different desktops now and again, and I don't want to say bored, but I do like to change it up quite a bit. So I thought this was kind of cool for right now. It'll probably change in a week or so, maybe 2 weeks, whatever. But I do like the option of having two separate desktops, or two separate desktop wallpapers with Windows 10. Obviously that was something in Windows 8 as well. But so far so good. Things are pretty easy to find. The Start menu is no longer that big Start page. And, like I said, these are my first impressions. So over time, things will definitely change. But for now, I'm pretty happy with the upgrade. Everything seems pretty snappy. Again, running the latest operating system. If that operating system works out with your workflow and the way you use a computer, is always a good idea to use the latest operating system, because then you have the latest patches and the latest technology incorporated into the system. For instance, if you're into gaming, which I could do on this computer, but I won't be doing on this computer. I have the other machine that I used to edit on that I will be using as my gaming and new home theater PC, but more on that in a future video. But if you want to do gaming, you want to have Windows 10, because the Windows 10 is the only operating system that's going to support DirectX 12, and that's a very efficient, even over DirectX 11, a very efficient graphic processing engine, and it's going to allow you to get the most out of your computer. So in a situation like this, DirectX 12, not really that important right now, but it will be down the line. So I'm pretty happy with the upgrade so far. So before I sign off, I just want to go over a couple of icons on this that are kind of interesting, and I'm going to have to zoom in for that, so let's do that now. So the first thing I wanted to show you were the Edge icon here and the Internet Explorer icon. Again, extremely similar. Now, as I said, I don't know if that's something that they did intentionally, just so that you think of the E as Internet, but a little bit more differentiation probably would have been a good idea in that situation. Here are the new icons in the lower right-hand corner of the screen. Of course, this one will allow you to show the hidden icons. The next one is the Wi-Fi. This is the speaker volume, and then these are the notifications. Over on the second screen, you'll notice that you do have a series of icons in the taskbar. Now, if you did run dual monitors on Windows 7, you'll know that the secondary monitor, or even the third monitor, or anything other than the main monitor, didn't have a taskbar at the bottom. So I think that's a good addition. You can bring up the Start menu from here. You can go into Cortana here. So I think it's a good idea, because it allows you to operate on one screen and you have a lot more options available down here. That works out in your favor if you're working with 3, 4, 5 monitors, whatever. That way you don't always have to go back to that central monitor. You can kind of work off of that one monitor. So I think that's a good upgrade there. Now the next thing up is something that's kind of interesting that has happened since Windows 8, I believe. Now I have used Windows 8, I've had Windows 8 machines before, but generally when I use a computer I don't use a lot of Microsoft programs on it, believe it or not. I use Chrome a lot. When I'm in the environment of this computer, it's basically Chrome and Adobe Premiere Pro. So basically Adobe Premiere Pro to edit my videos, and then Chrome to upload the videos and maintain my YouTube channel. That's pretty much the majority that I do with this computer here. Now when I go into my day job account, I do need to use Internet Explorer for a program that I have to communicate with work with. So those are the things I do use. So I do use Internet Explorer, but again this was a Windows 7 machine. It's the first time it's had anything more modern on it. And you know, the other machines that I had are just, you know, the tablets, the Windows 8 tablets, Windows RT tablets, Windows 8.1 laptops. All of those machines I just used for a small period of time, and I don't really use a lot of Microsoft programs, like I said. So this is the first time I've actually recognized it, and interestingly enough, the background just changed. So I'm going to have to figure out why it's doing that. I thought I figured out how to avoid that, but that'll be for another video. Anyway, so the thing I wanted to just say was, you'll notice that I'm on the Ubuntu.com website, and over in the lower left-hand corner of your screen here, you'll notice the Ubuntu logo, which is basically a representation of 3 people holding hands. That's what that circle is. So basically it's a circle segmented into 3 different segments, and then little circles representing heads there. You'll also notice that that is very similar to Microsoft's share icon, which is in the upper right hand corner up here, and I will actually zoom in on that so you can take a look. There's the Ubuntu logo, and there's the Microsoft share logo. Now you'll notice that the recycle icon is different. Not a big deal, but it's just something I noticed, especially on this machine. It could have been changed in Windows 8 and 8.1, but you know, I just really never put the two and two together. I just thought of them as different work environments. The machine that had Windows 7 on it, or actually machines in this case, that had Windows 7 on it, I had a workflow, a way of using those machines, and those were different than using any of the Windows 8 machines, especially because I never really did any real hard work on Windows 8 machines. I just used them for review purposes and then got rid of them. I didn't, stay with them for a long period of time. So recycle bin might have been changed in Windows 8 and 8.1, but it's definitely something I notice here in Windows 10, again, because I'm going from Windows 7 to Windows 10 on this machine. So that's going to do it for this video. You might notice in the center of the screen there's an AVG antivirus update dialog there where I have to restart the computer. One thing just of note before I sign off that I wish they would cure on Windows is the desktop shortcut placement. I place these icons in a specific order up here, and when AVG or any program updates itself, it just goes down here instead of going where it was originally, where there's a hole up here. Now I don't know if you can see that because it's pulled back pretty far right now, but just sort of a little pet peeve for me. I'd like to see if I can somehow record these icons in the spots they're in, because anytime you do a graphics card upgrade or anything like that, you'll notice that these things move, and the orientation that Windows likes is from top to bottom, and then when it fills up it goes to the next row. Whereas me, I organize them in kind of categories from left to right. Now I know if I went to the Start menu here, I have these tiles that I could replace the desktop shortcuts with and have different categories here if I wanted to, which is something that's definitely a possibility. But that, I know it sounds silly, but that, it kind of defeats the purpose of having a desktop shortcut, because just clicking that Start menu or clicking the Windows button on the keyboard is an extra keystroke. So it's just adding more work where definitely I didn't need it. Now, it's not a huge deal because it doesn't happen often where these icons move themselves, but it's just sort of a little pet peeve of mine because it's frustrating when they end up moving themselves and you have to reorganize them. Generally, a lot of times what I do is I take a screenshot using the snipping tool and just, record where they are and keep that file on my computer so that when they do move, I know exactly where to put them back. That way, it's the least amount of time invested on it as possible. But again, it would be nice if I could just, click a button or something and it would record where these shortcuts are, and that would be that. I'll have to look into that at a later date again. Again, like I said, I could put them here, but that's just an extra keystroke for me. Or mouse button stroke or whatever. Which at the end of the day, not a big deal, but is not as efficient as it could be. So that's going to do it for this video. I like Windows 10 so far. I like the experience so far. I really have to get used to it a lot more before I can give my total opinion on it. It might change more in the positive direction or actually more in the negative direction depending on my experience with it. But so far, the friction from the way I use the old system to the way Windows 10 works is not that bad. There's not a lot of friction, and I can work very similarly to the way I used to in Windows 7, and hopefully there will be some upgrades in the process. I really want to get my hands or voice or whatever the right metaphor is, I really like to try out Cortana a little bit more because, as I said at the top of this video, I can't really use it to its fullest potential because I don't have a microphone attached to this computer, so that's something I do want to rectify as soon as possible. But that's going to finally do it for this video. I know I've said that for the third time I've said that, but if you have any questions or comments, please post them down below. If you like what you see, please subscribe. And as always, if you want to help out my channel, you can give me a thumbs up, you can favorite this video, you can share this video, you can leave me a tip on my YouTube page, or you can join my Patreon. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.